Hello and welcome to today's discussion. We're joined today with Melanie Rutherford from DocHQ and Jackie Grant, a fitness coach specializing in menopause and women's health. As a part of our Women's Health series, we're looking at a range of health conditions that impact the lives of women across the world. We've spoken with professionals on how menopause impacts the workplace and how physiotherapy can help women manage their menopausal transition. Today, we'll be speaking with Jackie about her journey towards menopause health coaching and how fitness and health testing can help empower women to take ownership over their health. Jackie, could you just give us a little bit of background into yourself and what led you to specialize in this specific kind of training?
Yes. So I've been in the field of menopause since 2014, actually. And it was kind of an accident how I got into it because um, I had a hormone, I have got a hormone imbalance, PCOS. And, I was looking for a course at the time because once I'd done my personal training in 2012, I wanted to specialize in working with women with PCOS. So what happened now is I was looking for a course. No courses came to materialize, and then I found menopause and fitness. So I thought, oh well, that's hormones. Let's just do around menopause and fitness. Yeah. So that was really interesting because as I went through it, I was just kind of um, I just left my job because I was, suffering with anxiety, and, high amounts of stress. And then when I actually was started to do the course, I actually connected that I was actually going through, which is now called perimenopause, wasn't really called perimenopause at the time. Um, and so that's kind of how I started, really. So it was kind of by accident, really.
That's amazing just in terms of I think what we've been doing is talking a lot about kind of people not understanding specifically perimenopause and like I was even talking about to someone today and they were like, "Oh, I'd never heard of that before." So I think this is it. This is kind of what we want to shine a light on is that like a lot of people there's a lot of stages that people aren't realizing and it's not just one stock image of what menopause looks like. There's like a whole variety of things that go into it and it can affect people at different times and different ages. And, I imagine with your work, each woman has a very different experience with their symptoms, and some people might experience more intense symptoms, or some it might just be a kind of gentler transition. And how do you kind of work with your clients to kind of find out what their needs are? Is there like do you kind of sit down and talk to them a lot first, or what's that kind of relationship like?
Yeah, so when I first meet a client, I do a consultation. So that really goes through, what someone's looking for in terms of, their fitness, their health, what are their goals, what are the challenges, and actually finding out, how we can kind of overcome those challenges and what we need to do so to get to that. And once someone does, start working with me, obviously we look at those goals, what they've come up with, and then I do a fitness test. So we give a baseline of where someone is at with their fitness, because I don't really want to be going, oh, you can just do that exercise, and then someone runs off, which is, do you know what I mean? Because you give them too hard. So you have to find out a baseline where someone is at. So I do baseline that bit, baseline measurements, baseline around their nutrition, find out in terms of their nutrition and food diary, and that's how I start working with someone. So in terms of their symptoms, depending on what someone comes to me with, is what what we'll work on first. So if someone says they're struggling with sleep, then we'll look at how we can we can work together to support their sleep. So whatever symptoms they come up with, that's what we focus on first, really.
Amazing. And Mel, I just want to ask a little bit. I know that we're kind of working a lot on that side of things with the physio, and we're kind of trying to work more closely to women's health and how we can kind of help with the symptoms that women are experiencing. And obviously, a lot of women experiencing menopause are working or they have children, they're living active lives, and that they're quite time poor. How is the physio solution going to help people find the time to exercise and manage their pain who are going through menopause?
Yeah, and I think you touched on something that's yeah, is often overlooked is that, the pelvic issues, the pain that's associated with perimenopause and menopause, and something that might, women, going through that transition might not even relate to menopause as a symptom. And so I think there's the part about awareness of that, and how, physio can really help with that. And, and not just being in pain is, I mean, I'm sure we've all had times when we've had kind of chronic pain, and it's, debilitating to your mental health as well as your physical health as well. And especially if that's preventing you from exercising, then, that's also a barrier to managing your menopause symptoms.
Mm,
So physio works really well, like you say, for those women who have really busy lifestyles. They don't have perhaps the money or the time to seek out, a private physio and go there, travel to the physio, have a consultation, etc. Or, I mean, it's still sadly an issue that you go to a GP and you say, I have, I'm in pain and I think it's linked to menopause, and the GP will just overlook it. And wait lists are ridiculous with the NHS. So there are a lot of barriers to women getting help with that. So what DocHQ Physio does really well is it allows women to have kind of instant access to a physiotherapist, and all the physio exercises are given to them as a treatment plan online. So not only do they have that face-to-face time with the physio who can really go through them and reassure them about their symptoms, that they're going to improve. So there's that kind of reassuring part, that face-to-face contact via those remote consultations, but also just the fact that there's someone like on their screen as they're doing those exercises, guiding them through it, making sure they're
mm,
doing them correctly as well. And I think, I mean, I'm sure, Jackie, the difficulties of prescribing perhaps an online program and setting someone off, and you don't have a clue whether they're doing it, if they've been doing it, or whether they're doing it correctly with the correct form. And that's the beauty of being with someone in person as well. And it's the same
Mm.
with physio exercises. If they're only going to work if you're doing them correctly. And that's what our AI platform does. It ensures it gives that kind of corrective feedback. And it also means that the physio can see how the woman's doing as well, like remotely from their end, so they can change up their treatment plan as needed. So yeah, for I think women with busy lifestyles,
mm.
like you say, it's invaluable.
Yeah, and I think obviously, I mean, so much strength training, mobility, flexibility stuff, like I'm sure you do a lot of that as well, Jackie, with your clients, is that like a lot of people don't know that stuff like that can just help moderate the kind of symptoms people are experiencing and help build back up bone density and make things a little bit easier in terms of like if you are also active lifestyle and you're just not getting the time, like simple kind of stretches or exercises that can be done throughout the day are actually a great way to kind of start managing it. Um, and Mel, I know that there's also the health testing side of it, and that's something that we're kind of looking at more in depth now towards menopause and menopause clinics. And I wonder if you could just like talk us through a little bit about the health checks and specifically what kind of stuff we have on top of that to support women, stuff like the Tap 2 device.
Yeah, I think there's kind of two parts to that. So that phase of perimenopause, which we know can start in the late 30s, or even sooner. If it's early onset, or if there are other health issues there as well. So I think that initial kind of hormone screening by the health checks just gives that reassurance. Again, going to a GP and saying, can I have a hormone test? Because I think I'm experiencing some menopause symptoms. I mean, I've lost count of the number of friends I've had who've just been turned away and said, oh no, it's something else. So it really empowers women to just take, control of their health and figure out what's going on with their hormones. Um, and and get some guidance on off the back of that as well. And also just as a way, if they do need to go to their GP, they've got something there that says, hang on, well actually I've got some results here. I've got it here on paper that there is an imbalance with my hormones and I've been advised that I should go and see a GP. So just kind of furthering that process, that does a lot for kind of reassurance, and also just just making women like aware of what's going on in their bodies, which I think hasn't been talked about until much more recently. Um, and and I think the second part to that is for women who are perhaps using HRT creams and they want to measure their hormone balance as well. And so what we realized quite quickly when we first used the finger prick blood sampling, the blood collection devices, is that it interfered with the HRT cream, so the samples were getting contaminated. So what we've done is we're working with the Tap 2 device, which is it's first of all, it's pain free, so it's much more comfortable. So if you've got any issues with like pain or poor circulation or whatever, it's so much easier. It's just a device that you just pop onto your arm, and then it just draws the blood. There's like no chance of contamination with the cream, so all the results are super accurate. It's quick, it's easy, it's pain free. So that is something that also the menopause clinics that we're working with are really excited to use as well, because we've heard from them that they've had a lot of experience with sample contamination, hemolysis, etc. Just I think as a way for clinics to offer like a much lower cost hormone screening for their clients as well. And also we can kind of bespoke the hormone panel that they choose to analyze as well, because there's often different factors that can influence different symptoms, so they can have whatever they choose to see on their panel, they've got a really good overview of exactly what's going on in the woman's body.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, I think that access to information is just really important in terms of empowering women to take more control of their bodies and be able to, yes, often people are being dismissed at doctors or kind of having to go back countless times. So I guess it's good to have that kind of like, I have this document that tells me exactly what's going on in my body and I want next steps now. And another thing I wanted to talk about with you, Jackie, is, about that whole thing about the kind of isolation and lonely experience a lot of women kind of maybe go through with menopause. And I know that you've opened like a menopause cafe, which I think is like a really amazing step forward in kind of creating open environments for women or people kind of experiencing these symptoms to talk about what's going through and maybe make connections and share their experiences. So I'd love to hear how that came about and how it's going and what your plans are with it.
Yeah, so I started it in 2020 actually. How it came about was I was at a networking meeting and we were looking at our goals like in the December, and I said, oh, I'm going to start a menopause and women's health cafe. And well, actually it was Menopause Cafe at the time, it's called that now. And someone else said, oh, I wanted to do that. So then we decided to collaborate, and we started it in January 2020. Our first session, we had 16 women, and that was really great. So my friend had a venue because she did reflexology, and so she was doing reflexology, so we used her venue. So then we done the February, and then it was lockdown in March. So that was a bit of a nightmare because we tried to do it online, but as the women didn't know us, it was really difficult to get them online. We done a couple of them online, and then my friend, she moved, so she was my co-host. She moved out of the borough, oh god, she's in the South Sea somewhere during lockdown. So when we were able to get back, get back after lockdown, I was in talks with the local women's network. So they said to me, oh, we want to collaborate and do it with you. And I said, well, I want to find a host, right, before I do it. So what I did, one of the ladies that actually came to one of the original sessions, I asked her if she wanted to be co-host, and she said yes. And then she became my co-host. We started again in October 21. And we've been going from strength to strength since then. I'm now the chair of that local women's network, so it's even better. So I can get funding for us to continue it, so that women don't have to pay to come. It's a community venture. So literally, we have like 20 to 25 women turning up every week. It's really a chance for women to talk about menopause, to talk about what they're going through with like-minded women, and really don't feel alone anymore as a result of that. So it's really, really important. And what has came on the back of that is that I've done a couple of two focus groups to see what, from the NHS gave me a little bit of funding to do some focus groups with local women. So I did it in different parts of the borough. And actually, I did it in a part of the borough that we haven't got the cafe, because I thought what I wanted to do was see and hear what other women had to say over that side. And it's so strange, because, the difference in both the focus groups, the ladies that have been coming more vocal, have so much more to say, and the difference between the ladies that don't have the menopause cafe over there, it was like, trying to pull that information from them, but also they needed that chance to talk, just to vent, just to say, this is going on. My GP's like, I got my HRT prescription, and then the next minute I have to go around all the pharmacies to find my prescription, because they haven't got in the pharmacy that my GP sent me to. So it's been really, really good, really interesting, really good to have that kind of support in my borough, really.
Yeah, and it's amazing how it sounds like it's really given those women a voice as
Yeah,
well, and that like empowered them to really use that voice. And amazing
yeah.
that you've been able to get that funding for it as well. I think that's a big step, and something
Hmm.
that needs to be, you know, more widely acknowledged, more widely funded. Um, so women can feel more confident to talk about their issues.
Mm.
Absolutely. I mean, it's something that like half of the population are gonna probably experience at some point in their life. So the fact that it hasn't always been a more open, a more vocal conversation is kind of shocking. And I mean, like it makes me feel bad for like, I don't know, my mom and not recognizing a time when she was probably going through it and we were just being like, I don't know, little brats or something like that, and not recognizing that she was going through this huge transition. And same like, and I think it's just good that this kind of information is now being more accessible. Um, so I just also want to ask you both kind of what you think is next, what needs to be done now to, continue this spotlight on women's health and specifically on menopause and giving these women a voice. Jackie, if you want to take the lead.
What more needs to be done? Well, let me tell you what I got from our focus groups, right?
Mm,
Because I was just listening to it before I came on with you today. So the one from Chink, that they want in each area a super hub that is for women's health, that actually women can just go to. They're specialists, whether that you can't get specialist doctors, but you have specialist nurses there, that people be able to um, go there between 7 and 7, so that it covers the people that are working, have someone to access to be able to support them through their journey. They don't, what they think is it's disjointed when they go to the GP. Sometimes you don't get the same GP. So they want that seamless, you know, care. They want that seamless care, that they're with the one person that knows them, that goes through their journey
mm.
through menopause. So yeah, that's one
Excellent.
thing. I could go through the rest, but I'll just go for one.
There's a
That's
lot.
amazing.
There is a lot. Yeah, and just that, like you said, that consistency. And I think, I mean, it's frustrating enough. You go to a GP with anything, and when it's frustrating when you just see a different person every time, and especially with menopause, which is such a personal experience,
Mm,
and
Mm,
it's very personal to every individual woman as well. And
mm,
I'm sure Jackie, you don't, like, every woman that you train has a completely different experience, and has a different set of needs. And I think that for me, that's something that needs to be recognized as well. I still feel like, especially maybe in the workplace as well, menopause is kind of put into a box still. And
Mhm.
it's great that we're having these conversations and that it is, yeah, being talked about more and these messages are getting out there. But I feel like, yeah, it needs to be talked about that within that box, there is so much difference between each individual woman.
Yeah, the shame needs to be really like deconstructed and taken apart. And I think that's something that we're looking at now is like how we can remove that stigma and make it more of a comfortable experience for women to talk about because there is like no shame for it at all, obviously, but it's something that with many women's health things, women have been kind of trained to keep it quiet or like to dismiss their own symptoms a little bit. And I think now there's been a lot of work to kind of, retrain ourselves to think differently about our own health. And I think it's great to see communities like the ones you're kind of working with and you're starting that exist. Like I think it's really amazing and inspirational and like something that a lot of women are seeking out for a range of other health things. So I hope it just continues to grow and like you get more and more support from your community as well. It's fantastic. Um, well, thank you so much, both of you, for joining me today. It was great to speak to you both, and yeah, I hope to speak to you both in the future as well and keep up to date with what's going on with you, Jackie, and how the cafe continues to grow.
Yeah, keep us
Thank you.
posted.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.